Welcome back, everyone, to All Things NBA from A to Z. I'm Chris Persian, and here alongside Zach Noble, bringing you another episode presented by Ball is Life. We are going to do another one of our top fives. The last time we recorded with Albert on the show until we agreed on a consensus top five players in the NBA. Today, we are going to record this podcast until we can agree on a top five consensus teams in the NBA. And so, with that said, Zach, we'll start out now that we've set the table here. We'll start out with a little side tangent of Adrian Wojnarowski hanging him up, putting down the Twitter fingers for good, and starting as the general manager of the St. Bonaventure Bonnies. Absolutely unreal. Woj is now a front office staff in A10 basketball. Um, crazy that I think everyone was shocked by the news that he's done reporting and news breaking. It has to be an exhausting job. Shams quit playing pickup basketball because he missed a coaching scoop one time while he was in the middle of a game. So he's never played it again. Like this guy's always on his phone, he's always reachable, and that's insane. So for Woj, family man, it was time to hang him up. How crazy is that? Just we'll be quick on this. Just what did you think? Were you shocked? Were you as shocked as everyone else was?
Yeah, it's a bummer because he seems like one of the good guys, and it's just he's done so well at his job. I mean, Shams is close, but I still think he's a little step behind yet. But it should come with time, and it's a big loss for the basketball community. He made our lives really easy, and now it's going to get really hard for all of us because you don't just replace somebody like that immediately. It just spreads all out, and yeah, somebody will eventually rise to the top, but uh, it's going to be madness for where we get our information now. So that's going to
ESPN's
be
got
really
to
weird. Way too many
ESPN's got to
notifications on our
back
phones
up the
now.
Brinks trucks for Shams Charania, man. That's the
Yeah.
clear succession, in my opinion. Woj's protege, his mentee at Yahoo, now taking over his role at the worldwide leader in sports. I think it's only right. But yeah, we'll see, man. Interesting, weird way to start the day. Crazy news. I think it's cool that ESPN has like Schefter and Jeff Passan from MLB reporting like doing basketball segments today. I think that was funny watching them talk about contenders and who they have going to the finals. I think they both said Thunder over Knicks in the finals. So I guess fitting for our conversation today as we try to figure out who the five best teams in the NBA are. Zach, I'm going to ask you how you want to go about this. Because again, this podcast episode cannot end until we are in agreement on a way of ranking the top five teams. Do you want to start with number one or number five? I'd say number one makes more sense, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So, what are you thinking? Right? Because I kind of want to say the Thunder, but I feel like Boston is so deep. They just did it. They just won the championship. And they won it with Jaylen Brown winning finals MVP, with Tatum just doing his job, making the right reads. We came on here after those finals games, did those post game breakdown pods, talked about how Tatum, game in, game out, was just making the right play, no matter what stat line he finished with. And it led to championship basketball. So I want to say the Thunder, but I also think that's a little like hipster. Like I feel like they were the hipster pick, and then that now they've turned into the mainstream pick. Like every talking head on every network thinks they're coming out of the West.
All
So
right, that'd be your typical Chris Reach trying to stir the pot up out of the gates.
have
No,
you not seen everyone ever saying the Thunder are making it out of the West on
hey,
TV?
we can debate 2 through 5. That's where it gets interesting. I think it could be any which way. To my tier one, honestly, is pretty big, and My tier two is very small, and then my tier three gets really big. Um, I don't think there's any debate here. I don't anoint teams unless they really lost something. The throne is theirs till they get it taken away. It's like the Kansas City Chiefs, even though they've won two in a row. They have the clear best player in the league. But here's the thing: I think the Celtics have the clear best team. Nobody played as together as the Celtics all year, and these
Yep.
guys are just such a connected, cohesive unit that they didn't lose anything. Nothing left this team in the offseason. So that's where you'd have a debate here. They really didn't gain much, but here's what they gained. They're gaining a fully healthy Kristaps Porzingis, who they didn't have in the finals, mind you, and they still dominated in 5 games. And then Jason Tatum, I still think he's the one guy in the team that still has a little bit more to prove in the playoffs. Maybe
He
you think that's
does.
all he is. Maybe you think that's all he is and that's all he's got, but I think he's got more. So there's more upside here that we didn't see in the finals than downside because nothing's left and players aren't aging really besides Drew Holiday and Al Horford. But how
So
important were they?
Horford, that's what I was gonna say is, do we think Horford still got it? Um,
It don't matter.
I listen, man. You talked about how they were able to win without Porzingis. Horford on June 3rd turned 38, and like, listen, the reason they were able to win without Porzingis was because Horford is just good enough of a shooter to the point where they could still play 5 out, still have Tatum and Brown drive inside, make reads, still have Holiday and White drive inside, make reads. Like, the floor was spaced regardless of Porzingis's absence. And that to me, like, Horford's shooting isn't going to magically disappear, but if he's old and slow to an extent where you can't afford to play him defensively, then you do lose his shooting because he's not on the court. Um, so with all that said, you don't think it matters. You think Porzingis will be healthy enough, even if Horford's out, they're fine, or even if Porzingis is out, Horford's good enough that they're fine again. I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't think like
I
even
don't
if he
know.
declines quite a bit, like all right, you might have an argument because he played 27 minutes a game last year. It's a big chunk of minutes. He's very integral to what they do, but you can't say like Jordan Walsh is going to come in and be that guy. Xavier Tillman's going to be that guy. No, they don't really have the guy that's for sure going to replace him. I just don't think the actual impact. First of all, we haven't seen him necessarily declining a ton yet. Okay. We haven't seen Al Horford take the Mike Conley or Kyle Lowry fall off. Like, even though Mike Conley's still pretty good, but he's probably 60-70% of his peak in my estimation. Um, and Horford, what would you say Horford is from his peak? I'd say 75, 80.
I mean, he's a different. You're talking about level of impact on the game.
I don't think he's,
65?
oh man.
Dude, he was so
Well,
good.
here's the thing. I think he just had more like usage, and I think he was
But
needed
he
more.
couldn't
Like
sustain that usage today.
27 minutes,
38 years
42% from
old.
three,
Bro, this isn't
like
Braun. We're not talking about Braun here, man.
9.6 boards. Like still a pretty good stat line. Still a pretty good stat line. Do I think I didn't say 100%, but that's interesting. We'll have to see because that means you think if he's 65% right now of his peak, that means he could fall pretty drastically this year.
That's
And
a good player. That's a good player, man. 65% of Al Horford's peak is a good player.
oof,
And so,
all
yeah,
right.
we'll see. I
But
think
we can agree on the
we'll go
Celtics, right?
Celtics number one. We'll go Celtics number
All
one.
right.
Now, what the hell do we do, man?
Well, it
Does it,
sounds like
is there a team that's a clear number two to you? Because I would like to project the Thunder. Like, I think at the end of next season, Shea is going to have a case for best in the world. Um, I don't know that they're going to win the championship. They didn't get what they needed out of Jalen Williams. All the creation burden fell on Shea. I don't think that Caruso and Hartenstein fix that. They don't make Jalen Williams a number two scorer in a playoff setting. he filled that role really nicely all regular season for them, and it allowed Shea to not face that brutal extent of defensive attention. But now it's different. Now, yes, Hartenstein will keep the ball moving. Caruso can shoot. They can both defend very well. They didn't lose any positive rotation players to get either of those two guys, just Josh Giddey and Cash. So, like, yeah, OKC's really good. Is there a spot for Denver here to be over them? Is because Jokic has established that he is that top three in the world level player that Shea hasn't stamped himself as yet, even though I think he surely will this upcoming season. I, I don't I don't think Philly belongs at number two, but it's interesting. I'm willing to bring them up. Um,
All right, so you
what do you
nominated
got?
them for,
What do you
you almost
got?
nominated them for number one. So I'm gonna be really easy here, and I had OKC at number two. And honestly, they put up a good fight in round two of the playoffs. Okay. They could have made the conference finals. I think they had a team good enough last year, and that's what Jalen Williams playing pretty poorly. We agreed in our player rankings that Shea is the number three player in the world right now, and he has a chance to become the number one player.
Yeah,
Like adding these two players that like man, to a team that already was in the top five by the end of last year, you can argue. I mean, at a minimum, top eight last year. At their worst, top seven, six. Uh, they're number two for me, and just because I think they can only go up. I mean, the only guy, there's nobody on this team that's going backwards. They added talent to a team like the you didn't even mention New York, where they added
because
they added a lot.
it's
So
power rankings going into the season, and I think New York is easily a top 2 to 3 team if they add a center, but they don't have that right now. Or if they add a center, or if Precious Achua shows that after a full offseason of development, knowing he's going to be playing center and not any other position besides maybe the four sometimes. I mean, if he can be good enough where then it doesn't feel like they need a center so badly. But these we're talking about the number one and number two teams in the league. Like, do I think New York can be that with one trade? Yes. And a small trade? Yes. But that trade's needed. So if we're going into the season talking about power rankings, I gotta keep it a buck and say New York is in my definite top five, but I don't think I don't know. I don't think I could say they're better than the Thunder or the Celtics or
yeah, I think just by your initial reaction, with you wanting to put these guys, argue them at one, and they were my two. I think it's just simple math to put these guys at two. It is kind of crazy though that we're here pretty easily because they didn't make the conference finals. There's four teams that make the conference finals, and they're jumping the Mavericks and they're jumping
the
the
Wolves.
Pacers,
So that
which
this is what I wanted to
uh,
ask you. Oh, I don't think the
I
Pacers
know,
belong in
but
this
hey, I'm just
conversation
saying
at
they made it
all.
further in the playoffs,
The
but
Timberwolves do
conference.
though. The Timberwolves I think do belong in this conversation, right? So like what's your thinking with going Thunder over T-Wolves? Cuz I think if it depending on what kind of jump you're expecting from Ant, I think this is a real conversation. Like they have Kyle Anderson out, Joe Ingles in, and then they got Rob Dillingham. How good can he be? How good is Ant going to be?
All right.
Because I think
So
Minnesota could be in contention for me at number two, to be honest.
so honestly, I think at the end of the year, if you compare these teams, the Timberwolves won one less game than the Thunder in the regular season. Okay. So edge to the Thunder in the regular season, barely, but they're basically identical. And then you break it down how their playoffs go.
Different.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't think the Timberwolves were that much better in the playoffs. I really don't. Okay. I think Ant was good until the conference finals. I think Shea was good all the way through. The rest of the teams, that's where you got to argue what's the difference between these teams. And I like the pieces that are. I think the pieces that the Thunder picked up are for sure going to help them. Like if Rob Dillingham is a Rookie of the Year candidate coming in, yeah, then we got an argument here. But until we know who Rob Dillingham is and what Jaden McDaniels, I always say every time we talk about the Timberwolves in this top tier, this team is only going to be as good as Ann Edwards and Jaden become. We know what everybody else is. And now we got Rob, another wild card here. So there's just way more questions around the Timberwolves to me. And
Okay, and
I
you're
do like the
exactly,
coaching of
and
OKC
Edwards.
much better.
Yeah, much better. I don't know.
Much better. I'm not
I don't
I'm
agree.
not a diehard Chris. I like Chris Finch.
I don't
Uh,
agree that Daniel is so much better than Finch. I think they're
I think
the same. I
I
think
think he's at
they're
least a
quite
tier
similar.
above him.
Nah,
Maybe two.
same tier. I couldn't. I if I had to take one, I'd probably go Finch. I want to say
All
I'd give
right.
Finch
So
the edge by a hair.
take out
Again,
we
every
already
go on.
we already think Ant and Shea are semi close, but we gave the edge to Shea last week. And all right, you're making it sound like they're not that
I don't
okay.
think they're
So
close.
that matters a lot. And then you argue the rest of the pieces, and I think the rest of the pieces, I mean, are pretty dang close. I think the Thunder have more depth and they play together better. And they're just more polished, except Jalen Williams in the playoffs,
Yeah, I
which is
mean,
huge. Yeah, Cat is better than the Wolves number two is better than the Thunder number two in the playoffs. So
I get,
it's
I
tough. It's close.
it's all about Ant. I think it's all about Ant because if you think he's going to take a step and be a legitimate top player in the league, then I think you should go Minnesota. But I don't know.
All
I,
right. So
I
let's say Thunder at
I'll
two,
say
and then let's
Thunder.
start agreeing on three, which
Uh,
is we're gonna have a tough time with.
so we can start in the West, right? Nuggets, Mavericks. I wouldn't say Mavs. I wouldn't. That's tough. I don't know that Marshall is going to replace Jones Jr. the way people think he is. I like Najee. He's good. I
I
don't,
don't like Najee, to be honest.
but you love Clay.
I do.
I
I
don't
still
think
believe in
Clay
Clay.
changed. Yeah, but I don't think on that team in that lineup he changes.
I'm gonna tell you who I had down. I had the New York Knicks down,
Okay.
okay, as my number three. And here's why. They were missing Julius Randle. They were missing OG. They just added Mikal Bridges. And man, nobody's peaked on this team besides Julius Randle. Besides Julius Randle. And they didn't have the guy. And if they had all these pieces, they for sure make the conference finals last year. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
For
Also, like, look
sure.
at their third string right now. Last year, their third string was McBride, who then after the Quickly and Barrett trade became second string. The third string was Burks, who was out of the rotation before they were forced to play him. Shake Milton out of the rotation before they were forced to play him. These guys that like Dwayne Washington, Charlie Brown Jr., Jacob Toppin, these guys that they have now at the end of the bench, it's a different level. Campaign, Landry Shamet, Marcus Morris Sr. They got
You're just selling me even more, man.
Chuma Okike. And they have Tyler Kolek now, right? For out of the draft. So
I probably like Kolek better than Chuma, but
for sure, for sure. But my thing is about if they do deal with injuries, right? You're not looking at Alec Burks being the sixth man playing 25 minutes a game in the playoffs. Uh,
KMC is going to be better than him right off the bat.
they had they had Dante and Josh Hart starting every game for them, right? And now those are two bench players for this team.
Filthy.
They're really deep. The
Best
thing
bench in the
is,
league, probably.
at center, I don't know. At center, we got to see about Precious. I think a jump in defensive EPM is coming. I think a jump in impact on the game is coming for Precious. But right now, I
Who do they need a center against to beat besides the Sixers? That's it. That's it.
Tom Thibodeau plays a style of basketball where you want a
And
center on the floor every minute of the game.
Against the Celtics, they don't need it, and that's the best team in the league.
They're gonna go to Randall at the 5 in spurts. That you don't do it full time.
That's that's fine. I think they can
Mitchell
Randall,
Robinson.
no Randall.
The thing is that Mitchell Robinson is injured every single year for 20 plus games.
So is Joel Embiid.
Yeah, but my thing is when you get to the NBA playoffs and Mitch goes down and you don't have Hartenstein, now you're starting Precious Achua and your backup 5. Like there's a path where Jericho Sims is starting for the Knicks in the playoffs, an
It
ankle
only
and a
matters against the
shoulder.
Denver Nuggets. Are you putting the Nuggets above these guys?
That's tough, right? How I think the biggest question with Denver is how much do you weigh Caldwell Pope being gone? How well do you think they can replace the impact of KCP internally? You like Christian Brown a lot.
I do, but I like this Knicks team even more.
You know, you look at the Nuggets last year, right? 57 and 25. The Knicks won 50 games despite missing Anunoby, Randall, Robinson for so many games. The Nuggets, the defense was so good, especially against good teams. The Nuggets, I think it was John Schumann that said this on the NBA website that the Nuggets had the second best defense in the league against the top 10 offenses. Um,
Mm, that
which is
matters.
freaking matters. 958 regular season minutes in the last 6 seasons for the Nuggets starting 5. Now KCP is gone. That synergy doesn't just like uh, Christian Brown isn't as good as KCP on either end of the floor, and I don't think anyone's expecting that. The thing
I
is,
think
does
defensively has a better chance to match him than
oh
offensively.
yeah, but he's not matching him defensively. KCP is really good, and the question is, does Westbrook plus Brown equal KCP? The answer is no. The answer is no. Westbrook is talented. He can be good in Denver. I think it's really interesting that Jokic like went out of his way to get him. Adam Mares, friend of the pod. It was his show where that information came out. Um, the Denver sports show. But I don't know. It's very tough for me with Denver. I think losing KCP is a deal. I think everyone thinks Jokic and his greatness and Murray and Porter and Gordon continuing to develop will just like wash that away. But then you put Russ into the equation. I don't know. I would go with Denver as a team that I could see being one of the last teams standing, and also as a team where they get knocked out in the first or second round. And I'm sitting thinking, damn it. I knew I should have been out on the Nuggets preseason. I knew it. I knew Westbrook wouldn't work. I knew KCP couldn't be replaced. I knew that the Thunder and the Wolves took steps to get better, and the Nuggets barely stayed the same. I think the Nuggets got worse. What's up with this Denver front office, man? Calvin Booth and using the MLE on random players that like shouldn't play, right? Dario Saric got the Denver Nuggets
For sure.
um spot for this next season. I don't like that. I don't like that. And when you look at
You
who
know
got
what?
it last season, it's Reggie Jackson. It's these guys who just don't play when the chips are down. I don't get what Denver's doing. I don't trust them. I think they'll be good in the regular season. I'm I'll go with Minnesota over Denver again. I
All
would
right,
put
so are you going Minnesota over Dallas though?
Minnesota over New York, Minnesota, Dallas, New York. Is that our contenders
That's
for
the
the third spot?
conversation here because
Okay.
you agreed New York over Philly right now?
Yes, because
All right.
as great as this fit in Philly is, you and I have talked about the amazing fit with Maxi, George, Embiid. How when
Yep.
you look at traditional roles, a guard, a wing, and a big, this is the best trio of those roles that we've seen in a long time, in many seasons. And I just Embiid has gotten to a point where he's going to have to prove it for me to believe it.
Right.
I won't do the Stugats, the Levitard. Okay, now do it in the playoffs. Okay, now do it again. All right, now do it a third time.
I
This
just need to see it once.
I just need to see it. You get this show. I just need to see it once. I need to see it once, and Embiid can't do it. He cannot do it so far.
He's never done it once in his entire career.
Not no con. It's a meme. It's like the biggest meme on NBA Twitter right now. That GIF of Drewski with the ski goggles and he's in camo and he's running away, and it's like blah 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 happened before Embiid made a conference finals. It's the biggest meme on NBA Twitter right now, and it's for a reason. The man is 30 years old. He is 30 and a half. We have yet to see him make a conference finals. At a certain point, like we talk about this on this show, what's the point of keeping score in the games if you're not going to let winning be the edge? So we'll do that, right? We'll whittle it down to mini New York. And Denver, like Denver's in this conversation for sure, but
Oh yeah.
I'm lower on them. I would go Knicks and Timberwolves over Nuggets.
But what
What?
about Dallas?
Oh, shit.
So for me, it's Dallas over Minnesota because they beat them, and Dallas got for sure better than the Wolves got. Because we don't know who Rob Dillingham is yet, unless you're projecting Dillingham to be better, a bigger addition than Clay right off the cuff.
I'll say this. I'll say this. I think what the Wolves can get from the continued building of synergy with their lineup, the timelessness seemingly of Conley's game, and then the internal development they're betting on between the lineup and Ant Edwards as a superstar. Will he actually become a superstar on the court?
Oh, come on. I think he's there. I think he's there, but
I think that this
I'm a
is a
little more
real
loose.
conversation in terms of that improvement versus Jones out, Najee in, Clay in. Like to me, the Mavericks, man,
All right,
Luca's
well, tell me
insane.
this.
Luca's insane. The Mavericks defense, like, are you super in? You're super in? You think Clay's gonna help the defense?
I think he'll be about like last year. I mean, maybe a
I
little
think I
better.
think a little worse.
I think,
Their defense was
okay.
really good. They were they went 21-7 right
Derrick
um
Jones was important.
when they got Gafford in Washington uh after they were 21-7 and they were the sixth best defense. I don't think they have a top 6 or 5 defense next season. I just don't. Um I think Minnesota will have
Forgot they
a
got
much
Quentin
better
Grimes too.
defense. Yeah. Yeah.
I
He's
don't think
he's
that's something to slouch at. Like, I
No,
think
and
he'll play big
he can
minutes.
guard the point of attack. I think he has a better chance of replacing Jones Jr. defensively than Najee
And a
Marshall does
full year of PJ Washington,
and Gafford.
Maxon. I think we could agree on New York at 3, and
Guys,
I'll let you decide between Minnesota and Dallas for 4.
I might go Minnesota, New York, Dallas.
Give me one more reason Minnesota over New York.
So for me, Minnesota, it's just the depth right now. And I'm not talking about these two
And New
teams.
York's got the best bench in the
They
league. You're
have an
saying star
amazing
depth.
bench. I think Minnesota, the cohesion with that lineup, the Knicks, the cohesion's not going to be an issue, I don't think. But it's the same thing. We need to see it from Randall as a 5. Will he play 10 to 15 minutes a game as a 5? If he does, I think it can be really good. Will we see it? Um, we just don't know. Like, I'm willing game 3 of the season to say, okay, it's the Thunder number 1, the Knicks number 2, the Celtics number 3, the Timberwolves number 4, and the Mavericks number 5. Like I'll say that. I'll come on here and say that. But we know Denver's really good. I'd still put New York above them. Minnesota, though, like, where's Denver's avenue for internal development that could impact the trajectory of their team as greatly as Ant's development for the Wolves or Shea's development for the Thunder, Jalen Williams' development for the Thunder? They're counting on that internal development. And the Knicks, like, the Knicks have everyone's proven, but Mitchell Robinson needs to stay healthy. Precious Achua needs to prove himself. And if not, they need to go out and get someone else. That's like a what if for me. That's the real what if. Randall, I think, will be fine. He will fit in. He will look really good. He's all a two-time All NBA in a Knicks jersey. One of the more underrated players in the NBA league wide right now out of any of the 30 teams. And I just still want to defer to the Timberwolves because we've seen it. But then again, what if the Knicks are healthy next season and the Timberwolves get decimated by injury again, and they're missing Cat and they're missing Jaden or something? And I really hope not. But like then this conversation's flipped. Brunson is better than Edwards. Is better than I'm gonna say Knicks over. I'm gonna say I'll go with Knicks at 3 if you agree with me on the condition that we're assuming they will figure out backup center before the trade deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. If Precious doesn't work out, I think they'll for sure. Like, dude, they've been making moves like crazy over the last couple of years.
And the Knicks make
And
great in-season moves. The Derrick
yeah,
Rose trade in 21 propelled them. The Josh Hart trade propelled them. Um, the Knicks make really, really meaningful, strong
wow.
in-season trades.
Knicks at 3, Wolves at 4.
Mavs at 5.
That
It's tough.
would be how I had it, other than though I had Philly at 4. So I will put Dallas at 5.
I
That means
Philly's Phil again. Embiid can prove it. Embiid can prove it to me, and I will eat crow. But we're at that point
you
with him.
won't go Philly over Dallas? Because I'd like to.
I don't. I I might like Dallas's depth better, and then Luca. At least with recent production, like Luca's better than Embiid because what? Again, Embiid. Yes, we got a 50-point game in the playoffs. Yes, he was amazing, but he was hurt, and it hindered his defensive performance and different things. Like this is so
Lu
hard.
Luca playoffs hurt and Embiid playoffs hurt. They were pretty equal, weren't they? I'd say.
Ye-
I'd say pretty equal. I mean, Luca might have had way more good games, but his bad were pretty equal to Embiid's bad.
This is brutally hard, man. I think
I think that's what it comes down to because they were both injured in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, but for Embiid, it's a trend.
And Maxey was better than Kyrie. And Paul George, I
But Maxi
mean,
played one
wasn't
round.
great, but still better than
Kyrie was great in every round except the finals. Maxi was
right.
great in one round because it's the only one he played. Like, what do we got with Philly's bench, right? You bring in Paul George and Caleb Martin for the starting lineup. Andre Drummond back at the backup 5 is massive. Mo Bamba, it didn't work. Drummond, we know, is not a versatile player. He's limited. We know what he is. But what he is a really, really strong rebounder. And for backing up arguably one of the best players in the NBA, that's not the worst. So I think Drummond is a really nice move for them. It's really good that they got him back for their regular season success. No more Tobias Harris, replaced by Paul George. I mean, that's
Jared McCain, Ricky Council, Kyle Lowry, KJ Martin, Reggie Jackson, even
for Jackson.
Gershon,
Reggie
Yabusele,
Jackson's
bro,
their new campaign. He won't play.
Max Fiedler. Let's get these guys going. There's a
I
name, huh? Judah Mintz. They're deep.
Judah Mintz is not ready to touch a
Eric
basketball court.
Gordon.
If Judah Mintz plays a single minute for the Sixers in the playoffs, they better be up by 40 or
No, not in the playoffs ever.
they are in brutal trouble.
I do like him though.
Um, Sure, but not yet. Um, I would say with Philly, like they're a stronger team. Their starting lineup was really good last year. Um, they it's just the bench. Like how good do you think the bench can be? How healthy will the starting lineup stay? I think Paul George is a great ad. I think that contract will age like shit, but that's okay. It
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
matter.
yeah, he's
It's about the
terrible.
it's about the right now with them, right? Because again, Embiid is 30 years old. Um, we don't know how many years he's got left. We got to maximize him. I would say Philly is a team that I would trust over Dallas if I really think about it. I think Dallas has too many moving pieces, and I think Clay will be good. I think they'll be good. I don't think that it will be perfect. No team is perfect, but I think Dallas's struggles will be exploitable. I think if you can survive in a defensive dogfight against any team in the league, like if you're that kind of team, I think you can beat Dallas. So yeah, I guess I think Philly is better. Wow. Okay.
We're
Um.
doing it.
Okay. So I'm in.
Wow.
I'm in for Philly over Dallas. You've got me. I'm
I
in.
love it.
All right. Now we're going Knicks 3, assuming center is figured the hell out, and that leaves us Wolves 4, Sixers 5.
Wow.
That doesn't feel. Oh, this is
I
so
love it.
hard.
No, I like it. So we
You
got
you
Boston
like that
1,
order?
OKC 2, Knicks 3. That was a pretty somewhat easy agreement. And then Wolves at 4 and
I had to get talked into Knicks at 3, which I think
eh,
says something about how unsure I am about all this. You know me and Jalen Brunson
I
and the
was
New
close
York
to letting
Knicks.
you take me with the Wolves at 3, but I like that you came around.
Because
I let
again,
you.
we're assuming they're gonna fix backup center. Either the fix is on the roster or it's going to be on the roster soon. And that
Do we want to
that's
switch the Wolves and the Knicks?
no, because I can't because that's a leap to take. But we're taking that leap with the Thunder, right? Like everyone's just kind of assuming they're gonna be amazing because the Shea and J Dub combination should improve. So then we can do it. It's just so different when you're looking at internal development versus potential external resources coming in and internal resources going out via
I don't
trade or
think
signing or whatever it
that's where we
is.
disagree. I think the Knicks only need it to beat literally Dallas and Philly. And
It's about scheme
do I
versatility,
think they can
right? It
get there
happened
with
to
their
be 5 out that won last year, right? But imagine the Timberwolves make it to the finals and the Knicks make it to the finals and the Knicks lose because they can't bang down low. Then everyone's going to be saying, oh, 5 outs over. That's a hipster scheme of the past. Real bigs are back. Look, the Wolves won a championship. Meanwhile, Wolves fans are like ready to send Cat out the window if they could improve the team by doing it. If the Wolves win a championship with Cat and Gobert on the roster, all of a sudden it magically becomes every team should have two bigs. Every like this stuff is fickle. This is year to year. This changes. I I think centers are important. They're like running
oh,
backs.
they are.
Centers are like running backs in that there's this large analytical group of people that say factors that set up the center for easy buckets or set up the running back for big holes to run through, like great shot creation and spacing and good blocking, good offensive line play and playmakers out there on the outside. Like, yes, that's more important than who the center themselves or the running back is, but I don't think anyone genuinely believes that they're like meaningless, worthless positions. Like,
No,
and everyone's always trying to convince everyone else that
they're
they're
not
dying.
kickers.
That they're
Yeah,
they're
they're
like,
not
oh,
kickers.
oh, the center position is dying. Every big can shoot now. Oh, the running back position is dying. Well, centers learn how to shoot. Running backs got their asses out, lined up in the slot, lined up outside as playmakers. Saquon, Jameer Gibbs, all that. And here we are. The positions are well and alive, and they're getting paid, and blah blah blah. So my whole thing is like centers are very important. Is Achua good enough? Achua is a dog defensively. Offensively, he is awful. And the gimme layups that he misses are really bad. I don't think it's like a too big of a moment thing for him. I think he needs to work on his touch. He needs to be doing those Mikan drills, those Kyrie, the
Yeah.
Mikan. Yeah. But I can't I understand it's Knicks 3. And it's because we're either saying Precious is going to be it, or if he's not, they'll do something about it. Walker Kessler, Nick Richards, they'll do something about it. So I'm okay with
Man,
Knicks
if
at
they had
3.
Walker Kessler, wouldn't even be a debate right now. I
That's
think that'd
I'm
be
putting them at 2.
so money.
I'm putting exactly. Oh,
So
okay.
the only
So
team we didn't mention in all of this madness that I think is worth a shout out here is the Milwaukee Bucks. I just think they still have Giannis.
yeah,
They still have a top 5 unanimous player. They still have Damian Lillard, who at times was really good last year. Chris Middleton was good in the playoffs. They're pretty outside of Dame. I mean, I thought they played better as a team as the year went, but um, yeah, I don't think there's much of an argument for them. Other than that, though, I don't. Yeah, I like that we had Denver on the outside looking in, which is just crazy to think, just from where we were last year. But everybody got better. Every single team got better in the last 2 years.
The
Denver's gotten worse
Tobias
since their
Harris,
championship.
Tobias Harris and Bojan Bogdanovic getting turned into Paul George and Mikal Bridges, and Giddy getting turned into Caruso. Like these improvements that these top teams made, it's not just about, oh, they got another player who's considered a really good player. It's about
Hmm.
they took a weak spot of their lineup, arguably the weakest spot of their lineup, and turned it into one of the best players at what they do in the NBA. They got
Addition by subtraction. Got rid of
guys who
Kyle
are
Anderson in Minnesota.
guys who are stars in their roles, right? So that's why it's so tough. I will say the other thing that I'm surprised we didn't talk about, especially with all my like knee jerk Knicks doubt just because of the center position, is Anunoby's health, right? We brought up Robinson's health, but is OG going to be healthy? Um, but again, Embiid's obviously the biggest health risk. You got to go Knicks over Sixers. They beat them in the playoffs. What else do they have to do? You know, it's like Jalen Brunson sent Donovan Mitchell home in the first round 2 years in a row, and everyone after the second time was like, "Yeah, but once the Cavs like Mitchell's better, like they'll figure." Like now, I think it's finally turned where people are like, "No, it might be time to say that Brunson's better than Mitchell." Um, I think that's going to be a little bit of the vibe with a lot of these teams. Like we got to see it, and it's got to be sustained. Some team like Indiana or some team like Houston is going to start out the year at like 10-0, and everyone's going to be like, "Holy shit, we should have had them top 5. We should have blah blah blah." And then you get to halfway through the season, you get to the All-Star break, you get to the playoffs coming up, and you're like, "No, actually, no. You know what? There was reason for that." So yeah, we'll see.
Orlando or Memphis, the Clippers.
We'll see.
all all those teams could come out hot
So
and then
so we're
just
going Celtics, Thunder, Knicks, Wolves, Sixers.
correct.
Okay.
Denver, Milwaukee, Dallas on the outside.
Dallas,
Dallas was 6 for me.
Dallas, Denver, Milwaukee. Oh, Dame. I've been out on Dame for years, is my thing. So like that's where I struggle with Milwaukee.
Come
I
on, Dame, prove us wrong.
that would be nice. He's really fun. One of the players of my childhood. You know what team I want to see prove this all wrong more than any other team would be um like the Kings or the Warriors or the Pelicans. Like one of these teams that people don't even think
It'd be fun.
is top 5 in their conference. Like imagine that Zion gets his shit together and Ingram is back and Murray is setting the table and
Murphy
Z-
takes a huge leap.
Murphy takes a leap like that. But they got no centers. Eve Misi, the rookie, is their best big on the roster, and he's like 2 years away from being someone I would start in a playoff game. So, ooh, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But we've got a 5, and outside looking in, Dallas, Denver. I'll give you Milwaukee, but they're 8 at the highest. The top 5, number 5, 76ers. Number 4, Timberwolves. Number 3, Knicks. Number 2, Thunder. Number 1, Celtics. That's our podcast list, man. This is interesting, like the little concessions we make to get these lists done. It's like negotiating a trade deal, you know? I'll give you them at 4 if you'll say that. Oh,
I think
you had to talk me into stuff today. I feel like usually I'm the one trying to be like, no, it's this and not that. Today I was on the fence about a lot of this. This is hard. This is
oh,
hard.
it's super hard. I think Denver will be the most pushback. Denver or Dallas? people. Dallas people are usually pretty vocal, but I think that's where the pushback will be.
Oh,
Who was the pushback in the players? Was it LeBron that you noticed? Like that'd be the one that stuck out for me. Is LeBron. A lot of people came at us for LeBron.
I think people the most pushback was like the Booker and Ant convo is where we
Mm,
got the most pushback. Um, so yeah. But
love it, man.
we got our list. Celtics, Thunder, Knicks, Wolves, Sixers, Mavericks right on the cusp, Nuggets on the cusp, Bucks participation trophy. Um, okay. There's a list,
Love
man.
it.
There it is. We
Let
did
us
it.
know what you want our next top five to be.
Yes. The pod is allowed to end. This is crazy. We did it. I'm having trouble believing that we did that in under an hour. Okay.
Cool.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. That's it for today's episode. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a thumbs up, subscribe. If you're listening, leave a 5-star rating of the show. It helps us get promoted in the algorithm. It's easy and free to do, but it means a lot to us to see your guys' support. We appreciate you, and we will see you next time right here on All Things NBA from A to Z, presented by Ball is Life. Thanks everyone for watching.
We out.